talk about how 7 days now, how you feel like the offense as a whole was done.
You know, we'll know a lot more after we actually scrimmage on Saturday. I did think the first 5 days before the break were really, was really pleased just with the attitude, the effort, the energy. We came back. Tuesday was what you were afraid of coming off of spring break. It was fairly sloppy. It wasn't really that great. Today we bounced back, had a little bit better day, but guys are working hard. The best thing is everybody's coachable. They're hungry. They're buying in. You know, the guys came up with on their own, as I'm sure y'all know, just, you know, the motto of earn it. And they just come to work. They're trusting their coaches, working hard. And but we'll know a lot more after Saturday of kind of the quality of where we're at.
Right, this from a quarterback standpoint,
Yep.
obviously you're rotating a lot of guys. What have you seen out of them, I guess, nearing the halfway mark of the spring so far?
Well, I've been pleased so far. Then again, we've had 7 practices. They've been in, you know, orange jerseys the whole time. So what I've been pleased with is their attitude. I think all guys are better than they were before we started. You know, I think Jeremy's better, and you can just tell his attention to detail and his hunger and to try to get better. I think Sean's healthy again, so he's the old Sean that played in the Kentucky and the Arkansas game and was playing pretty well. And then, you know, John is picking up the offense fairly well for the pace he's having to go at with the other guys. I've been impressed with that. But until we get out and play a game like we're going to Saturday, it's all just speculation, really.
Well, are they going to go live Saturday?
We haven't decided for sure yet, but, you know, it's very possible. But even then, that's still going to be the most, whether they do or not, it's the most game-like situation they've been in. And a lot of plays at a time, and just to see how they respond and react, that would be big.
Tony Stevens was speaking to us yesterday about how when John Franklin III came in, that he started texting the receivers about doing workouts, and he was like, how does this guy even get my number? Do you like that type of initiative from a newcomer quarterback in competition? Like
There's no question. I mean, he's shown so far that he's got a great work ethic. You know, he's tried to do everything and take advantage of every opportunity he has had to learn the playbook, learn more about the system, learn the offense, just improve. You know, and so I've seen positive development there, and there's no question that's the kind of initiative and leadership we need.
Do you find it critical to have an organized depth chart at quarterback when you leave the spring, or is that just something that's talked about and not really?
Well, I think critical is probably not the right word. I mean, optimal, you'd always like to have everybody organized, you know, but everybody's competing right now, and it's kind of like we were about 2 or 3 years ago. The refreshing part of it is everything's fairly up for grabs. I mean, we don't have a lot of solidified guys coming back, but we have some guys that we think have a chance to really be good players. And, of course, we're learning a lot in the first 7 days. Saturday's still going to be our biggest evaluation. We'd love to come out of spring having a lot of things answered. Who knows if we will or not. But right now, everything's up for grabs. The guys are competing hard, and, you know, we'll do what we got to do to get the right guys there. If we know at the end of spring we do. If we don't, we don't.
For the dual threat guy like Rhett, and the comparisons are going to naturally go back to Nick and Nate. Whether that's fair or not, we'll
Right.
tell, but that's going to happen. Is that, in your mind, is that a comparable situation, not merely because they're both normal quarterbacks, but skill-wise, is that there?
I don't know yet. It's a fair question. I think I'll know more probably after Saturday. You know, there's definitely some parts of his skill set that would, you know, compare favorably. Not quite as big. Got the speed and the quickness. Arm probably very similar in a lot of areas. So we'll just see. You know, the one thing he's been here in the spring. Nick didn't get here till July. So, but I think Nick's probably played a little more quarterback before he showed up maybe than John had. So, you know, all that's probably just speculation at this point. But there's some things that I can see that comparison being made.
How much is the 20-pound difference between him and the 185? Does that matter, especially with a mobile guy? You don't want to
Yeah, I mean, I think in our league it does. I mean, you just look at Nick. His first year he played around the 198 range, 200. And he didn't take a lot of big hits because of the style of player he was, but he still got nicked up a little bit. You know, he had a little bit of a knee at one time, and he kind of hurt his shoulder at one time. Came back his senior year, was up about 210, and that 10 to 12 pounds made a huge difference. He played the whole year, never missed a game, stayed healthy. So John's done a good job. He's probably put 10 pounds on already since he's been here. I think he'll put on weight in the summer too. You know, but that would remain to be seen. You know, there's been plenty of guys his size play and be okay.
Would he be around 190, 195 now?
I don't know. Right now?
Yeah.
No, he's probably the 180 to 185 range. Probably 185. But, you know, we'll see.
From just a physical standpoint, I mean, how far along is Kyle Davis compared to most freshmen come in? I mean, would you
say he's more.
Physically, just
Right.
what we call on the hoof, the way you look at him, I mean, he looks the part. He looks good in pads, you know. And he's running routes and catching balls. You know, he's limited in what he can do. We won't really know that till the fall, but just from what we've seen so far, we feel pretty good about, you know, his chances of, you know, having an opportunity to compete for a spot come fall camp.
How do you feel about the state of the receiver corps as a whole right now?
About like I do everybody else. They're all competing, and you can throw them all in a hat right now, shake them up, and pull one out for all I care. I mean, like I said, I really think after Saturday, I'm going to keep saying that, I know you're going to sick of it, but that's when we'll have a better idea. In our head, we kind of have ideas, okay, this guy's showing the things we like, this guy, you know, and we have an idea, but, you know, until you put guys in a game-like situation, it's hard to know for sure.
Specifically Tony Stevens, how has he looked to you so far?
You know, Tony's a senior. It's the last opportunity for him. And he's got the ability, he knows what to do, and I think he knows it's a time of urgency for him. So we'll just have to see how he finishes spring.
How the two new tackles, although Robert's not that new, but
Right.
I mean, how the two new tackles look in your opinion?
You know, Robert obviously played. I think what really helps Robert is how much he played last year, even if it was at that tight end spot. And then he played in a couple games when Sean was nicked up. You know, Robert's been really steady. I'm sure you're assuming you're talking about Darius is the other one. You know, his head's been spinning. He's had good days. He's had bad days. So we'll just have to see. That's a big key for him this spring, is trying to, in these next 8 practices, be much further ahead than he was when we started. Some days you feel like he's turned a corner, and some days when you put a lot of, you know, stuff in, he might, you know, maybe kind of hover a little bit. So we'll just see. But overall, he's competing very well.
It's an off the field question, but also relates on the field. What's it like watching Gus and Herb interact, you know, in the meeting rooms? And because Gus has said that he sometimes just doesn't understand his jokes.
Herb's a funny guy, you know. I mean, I like Herb. He's good. He's, you know, with some guys, they always got jokes. Herb's always got jokes, but that's okay. I don't know. I don't ever think about his. Huh?
Can you make your boss laugh?
He's gotten a few smiles and laughs out of him. Yeah, Coach probably wouldn't admit that, but he's gotten them a couple times.
Having two new guys out there, just talk about how that's going on.
Talking about Cody and Herb.
Right, yeah.
Well, obviously the good thing, everybody knows Cody, very familiar to Auburn, familiar to us, familiar to our system. So that's been a real seamless transition, not only because he played in our system, but, you know, he was with us at Arkansas State that year. He was with us here in 13. He knows kind of how the situation goes, not only with Coach, our system, with me. I mean, it's been a really seamless transition for him. And then Herb obviously was in the system for 2 years at Tulsa, been gone for 8 or so years. But, you know, Coach and Herb have known each other a long time. Herb and I have known each other a long time, really good friends, and he knows what we're doing. So just other than kind of, hey, here's what we call it now, or here's how we're doing it now, a lot of it has been like riding a bike for him. And those guys have plugged in, and the chemistry is really good, and they've done a really good job. I think the players are responding well to both of them, too.
Running back position-wise, when you had guys who both come back, kind of somewhat similar, I guess, to Cap and Corey, where you knew what they were bringing to the table. They're
A little bit.
Seniors, but you know what they have. What do you look from Javon and Rock in the spring, at least, before you even get to fall camp, before it's more pads? What are you looking for?
That's probably one of our better competitions. You know, you look at a guy like Rock, he'd earned a starting job for the season last year, and then he got nicked up, and it was just kind of an up and down year for him. So, you know, how does he make it through spring and in these scrimmage type situations that are going to be coming up? And you look at Javon, he finished the season well in a lot of areas, but he hadn't carried the load for 14, 15 games, which you'd have to do to get to where you want to go in our league. So, you know, one thing Tim always talks to those guys about is displaying toughness. And so I think that'll have a lot to do with it. Who can display toughness, running the ball, pass protection, not just every now and then, but on a consistent level. And right now, those are the guys that are healthy, and that's who I think you're asking about. But we have a lot of information on them, but at the same time, they've still got a lot of room for improvement, a lot of opportunity.
When it comes to Cody specifically, how impressed have you been with his rise from, I mean, 4 years ago, he's a graduate assistant under you guys at Arkansas State. Now he's back as a full-time coach under you guys on this side.
Well, I'm proud of Cody, but and impressed is a good word. But you know, we knew Cody, and we knew Cody had great ability to have fast success. You know, look at when he, you know, I know obviously Coach Sullivan and Travis Trickett at Sanford when he went to work for them. Within 2 weeks, they were calling me, telling me just, you know, how great he was doing, how much they enjoyed having him on the staff. And then I know he went up to middle and did a phenomenal job up there with Coach Stockstill. And And then, of course, even when he was for a month at Arizona State, with Chip and those guys, I know they loved him. So, usually when a guy can, everywhere he goes, can add value, that's a good sign, and it's not a shock to me. And like I said, at the end of the day, it's all about a fit. Cody's a great fit for us.
Rhett, talking about the running backs, Javon and Rock especially. Javon looks like he's trimmed down a little bit. Rock looks a little thicker. Have you been pleased with where they are physically heading into this?
Those guys' attitudes and work ethic has been great. And, a lot of things we're stressing to all the guys is just, effort, attitude, toughness. That's three things you can control that have nothing to do with talent. How great's your effort, what's your attitude like, and how tough are you? So yeah, when you see a guy like Rock come in a little bigger, you see a guy like Javon slim down enough to try to add a little bit extra step of burst here or there, that's been good. And so those two in particular have done a nice job working with Coach Russell, and I know they will after spring as well.
It's widely known that Coach Malzahn was heavily influenced by Herb Hand during their time at Tulsa with the way the offense even looks today. How involved is Coach Hand with you and Coach Malzahn here that maybe is different from offensive line coaches you work with?
Not a lot different. I mean, obviously Herb, there's a connection of him, work together there, but JB had been with us for 3 years and we got along great and brought a lot to the table, and we're probably no different now than we were then. I mean, from Coach to myself to Herb, now Cody and Tim. Tim's been with us now going on his 4th year. Everybody's got input, everybody's involved, and everybody's on the same page. And obviously it helps that Herb has been there before, but and he does bring a lot to the table, but we've had success, even before that. So
You talked about Jeremy and how he's looked. What's different about him this spring than the guy that maybe struggled some during the year last year?
I'd say, well, probably most importantly is body language. I mean, look, let's call it like it is. He went through something that not a lot of guys his age, that's about as hard as it gets, and he's a kid, man. No one was more disappointed with how things turned out for him in particular than he was. And I think it just says a lot about him, how he's bounced back, how he's responded, his attitude, his work ethic, and just, his demeanor and the way he is out there, you'd never know. And he's just competing every day and trying to be the best he can be. So I'm really proud of him for that.
How important do you think the bowl game was for him? Even though he didn't throw the ball a ton, he looked more decisive running it. Do you think that was important for him to have some success like that?
There's no question. I mean, anytime you end on a good note like that, that's a positive. And obviously he came in, gave us a spark, had a nice touchdown run, had a nice throw out there to get us a touchdown. And confidence in life is a fleeting, fragile thing, and the craziest things can have you lose it, and the craziest things can bring it back to you. So, but he seems like a confident young man, and like I said, I've been proud of him thus far.
What have you seen of the younger receivers, guys like Ryan Davis, Darius Slayton, obviously Redshirt last year? Have you kind of seen them make a progression you've hoped from that year 1 to year 2?
They're progressing. It's a process. Obviously Slayton's a guy that we are hopeful will continue to keep coming. He's done some nice things. How's he going to do in these scrimmage situations? Ryan, the good thing for Ryan, he's played, so he's seen the bright lights already a little bit. Now he's getting an opportunity to kind of be in a competition to be the guy. And so, both those guys are doing a good job competing and taking so far advantage of their opportunities. So hopefully Saturday they'll do some nice things.
Brett, we hear so much, like Gus and this other coaches say, that we feel really good because we got information on older guys. But do you feel like you got enough information on Stanton, just considering how much he's been injured since he's been here?
Probably not. I mean, I think I know what he can do, but to his defense, he came in as a freshman and he got nicked up a little bit, and last year he was nicked up a little bit. One thing we learned is he's tough because he tried to keep playing in both situations. So, hopefully he's out there running routes too, but he's limited. Hopefully he'll come back this fall. I mean, he can really run, so hopefully he can stay healthy and really help us. I mean, he did some things in some games, whether it be LSU, whether it be Arkansas, and some games even last year that proves that he's got an opportunity to help us.
Rhett, Gus and players have talked about, particularly before the break, about how driven the players are by what happened last year and how hungry they are. From a coach's perspective, how driven are you about what
extremely,
happened last year?
Extremely. And when you go through adversity and tough times, that's when you find out what people are made of. Hey, we're not reinventing the wheel here. We've had a lot of success for long periods of time, but it's a what have you done for me lately kind of thing. And none of us feel good about coming up short of, the things we wanted to achieve last year. There was a lot of frustrating points to that, but that's over and done with. We got a great opportunity ahead of us this year. Great schedule, and a great chance to, you know, put our best foot forward and you know, redeem ourselves a little bit.
Yeah, tight end was kind of a missing in action position last year. Jalen Harris and Landon Rice coming in early. What's your take on those guys, you know, so far this spring?
It's helped Jalen having a year under his belt. He's bigger. I think he's having to learn to play with a little more of the weight now. But we're using a tight end a whole lot more in practice now. We know we need to, we want to. So he's done some good things. Landon, for a guy who's had 7 practices, should be in high school right now, is doing a nice job. I mean, his head's spinning. But you can see the ability that once he puts it all together, he's going to really help us. And that's something we've missed. You know, obviously back when we had Lutz and then we had CJ. That's something we missed a little bit the last year, year and a half. So hopefully those guys can really add some value there for us. And they've done a good job so far.
Same question kind of with the H-backs with Bubba and Chandler. Do you
Yeah.
kind of feel like their head is less spinning now?
No question. That may be one of the brightest spots, to be honest with you. I mean, we knew those guys were really good and fit that position well. But, you know, Chandler was a true freshman last year, did a solid job, but in some instances he was a little underwhelmed with his size and all that. Seen a different kid. I mean, he brings great energy every day. He's one of those guys that doesn't have bad days. But just from a physicality standpoint, making some plays, he's very comfortable now. You know, he's a little heavier. You can see him really taking that next step to being the kind of player we thought he could be. Same thing with Cameron Petway. Boy, he's a load. He's a load when he's got the ball. He's a load blocking. He's a really good athlete. He's bigger. Both those guys bring a lot of versatility for us. They're not the tallest guys, but they're big, they're strong, they're physical, they're instinctive. They can both run the ball. I mean, Cameron Petway was a running back in high school. They snapped the dadgum thing to Chandler and let him run all over people. So they've got a lot of versatility there that I think now in year 2 for them we're going to be able to use.
Did you go to Waco with Coach Malzahn?
I did.
What did you learn from that experience in chatting with Coach Ross and that staff?
You know,
Similarities?
yeah, there's a lot of similarities, obviously the high school backgrounds. And, you know, obviously we do that every year. We'll pick somebody and we'll visit with. You know, I know they came out here last year and didn't get as big a deal made out about it. But, you know, it's always good as coaches just to kind of get outside of your box, but in guys that are somewhat like-minded or in the same kind of realm as you, and just it's not as much you're looking for this or that. Just kind of, you know, talk ball, bounce around ideas. And sometimes it helps you look at yourself from a different angle. You know, sometimes things get in your blind spot, and it may not necessarily be, oh, well, they do that, so we're going to do it. And, oh, well, they did. You know, I need to go back to thinking this way or that way. And so it's just always good to try to stay fresh and talk ball with good people that have success. And then you just, at the end of the day, know that people have been successful for a reason. You do what you believe in, and there's no reason to deviate from that.
Rick, can you talk about the redshirt freshman offensive lineman?
Yes, Caleb Kim. We got Marco Harrell, Mike Horton, Bailey Sharp, Tyler Carr, right? They all? Okay. Tyler is doing, he's better. You could tell that year helped him. Tyler's a guy that always had great size, and we still feel like he's got a chance to be a pretty good player for us. He's better now than he was. He's got a little ways to go still, but you know, he's a guy that comes physically tough and mentally tough to try to get better every day. Mike Horton has really come on for us, and he's a guy that I think will help us and needs to help us. And even though he didn't play last year, you know, he traveled, he was kind of in the 2 deep. I think that helps, you know, sometimes even if he didn't play. He's really done some nice things so far. Caleb Kim's a guy at center. He's put on some weight. We signed him thinking he could be a real tough, smart kind of guy at that center position, and so far he's making strides in the right direction from a guy who's redshirted. It's still a long way to go for really even all 3 of those guys through spring and fall camp, but those guys have done a nice job. Marquell Harrell, it's good to, you know, for him the first time to really be getting this many reps against good people with the 1s and 2s and all that mix. And he's getting steadily better each day. And Bailey Sharp, he's still got a chance to compete. So those guys now, what they're getting, you know, with the exception of Mike Horton, is their first meaningful reps with the 1s or 2s. And, you know, every series they're going, and they're going against good people. I mean, they'll line up against Mon one time, or Dontavius, or, you know, Carl. And whereas last year, you know, they were as a scout team, but not running our stuff and at that level. So it's been a good evaluation so far. And it'll be good the rest of the way. But those guys, we feel good about those guys.
Does Horton have a chance to challenge for a starting job?
Maybe, I mean, he's got a chance to be one of our best 5 or 6 guys. There's no question, and it's a long ways to go still. Jury's out, but like I said, he's done a nice job. He's really talented and picking things up well.
Go back to last year, just for the off-season, because there's a lot of time after recruiting and signing day to prepare. You got a month plus. Was there an aspect that stuck with you that you were just like, that you focused on more than any? Because obviously there were a lot of issues, and you obviously deal with quarterbacks, but the running game, because of the quarterback struggles and that becoming more predictable, struggled as well. And the things we do, and the wide receiver struggles. Was there an aspect that you focused on more than any other?
I think it all affects everything. I don't think you can pinpoint this group affected that group, that one, that one. It all goes together, and we're all in it together, and we all bear responsibility. And at the end of the day, there's a couple things that stood out, but one, we didn't make the plays. I mean, you can just boil it down to the fact that the first 2 years, in 13 and 14, we had the best offense for a 2-year period in the history of Auburn, 3rd best in the history of the SEC. Why was that? Well, we had guys making plays. The plays aren't that much different. The teams we're playing were still pretty dadgum good, but when the game was on the line, and every game, a lot of them were close, we would make that play here or there to win the game. Last year, we lost 5 games, arguably by a score, and there were times in that 3rd and 4th quarter in all those games, if we had just made a play here or there, it might have been different. You never know. But we didn't make those plays. The other team did. And so we're looking for playmakers. We're looking for guys who want to step up and when everything's on the line can make those plays. I think secondly, too, just making sure we, I don't know if I want to say get back to, but we are who we say we are. And, tempo is a big part of what we do, the way we practice. And sometimes as coaches, you can worry a little bit about, well, I want to make sure they're not tired or that I don't, get them banged up. At the end of the day, hey, this is Auburn. It's about being tough. It's about tempo and playing and just getting in that shape and getting used to playing that way as a way of life. And that's what we're trying to get back to right now in spring.
Brett, after missing all of last fall, have you noticed?
Sorry, man.
You're good, you're good.
Have you noticed that Tyler's been able to pick up where he left off last spring, or is there still a lot?
Which
of
Tyler?
Tyler Queen.
Oh, Tyler
He
Queen.
missed all of last fall.
No, he did. I know, but Tyler Carr,
Oh, no, I was, he didn't get hurt that I know of, unless there's some confidential.
he busted his nose a few times.
Okay.
Tyler Queen, he's been able to practice. He's on a pitch count. He's healthy. I think Dr. Andrews saw him even yesterday, and I think he's cleared him even for potentially even full activity. And so there's some things he's doing well. I would not say he's where he was last spring yet, but he's able to go out and practice and throw every day, which I think is a good thing. And so he should be able to do that the rest of spring. In spring it helps because you take a day off in between every day, and he should be able to throw all summer. And I would suspect by the time we get to fall camp, there shouldn't be any limitations. So, but it's obviously good for him to be out and get some reps.
We have one more, actually.
So you're really going to let him? Okay.
Well, we're not going to talk to you for another 2 weeks.
Oh, sweet. All right. Y'all dislike me that much?
Not us.
It's Kurt. Go ahead.
Is it fair to suggest that in the preseason, physicality is more of an emphasis this year, being more physical, having more physical practices in the spring and in the fall, translating that into the fall? Maybe
I
more
think
than you did
so.
last year?
Probably, I think so. And probably because there's so many things up for grabs. Defensively, with the exception of like a Carl and Montravius. I mean, new defensive staff almost. Again, they're trying to, figure out what guys can and can't do. On our side, we played 19 freshmen last year, which I think was more than just about anybody. But even on top of that, these freshmen this year are going to have to help us. 8 of them or 9 of them are already here. And we got a lot of guys, like we mentioned, those redshirt guys that maybe either didn't play much or like a Ryan Davis played just a little bit. They've never been in those situations. So it's not like when you have a lot of juniors and seniors returning like we've maybe had over the last couple of years in certain situations. So definitely we put the emphasis on physicality. And like I said, effort, attitude, and toughness is really what we're focusing on.
Take 2 more.